Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, I want to give you a bigger perspective. Each week I try to just make sure that we understand how the weather across the rest of the country and world affects North and South Carolina agriculture. So we start off here. We currently have major flooding on our river systems in the middle part of the country here, and it's evident by this map put up by USGS showing over 231 different locations here where we're measuring water depth in our rivers, showing flood stage or above. And so this is certainly something that's going to continue to concern us across the middle section of the country. It has most certainly kept us out of our fields in the middle part of this country as well. Well, that and snow. Last week's blizzard came through and brought into the north central plains in some locations well over 18 inches of snow. What's left in terms of how much water's in that snow, we still have some places in here that are anywhere from an inch to over 3 inches of liquid equivalent, which means this flooding problem we have in the middle part of the country isn't going anywhere. Add that to last weekend. This is a satellite animation over Texas and the southern plains showing the massive storm system that kind of blew up and just caused a lot of problems in the central plains before it made it over toward us here in the Carolinas on Sunday night. We can see total storm reports here. Well, Saturday we brought in 22 reports of tornadoes and a whole lot of wind and hail. In total, 220 reports of severe weather. And that severe weather risk just translated to the east on Sunday as this low pressure system raced up the east coast. You can see here we added another 309 reports of severe weather from Florida all the way to New York. And the Carolinas, we were right in the mix with all of this. In fact, Sunday night into Monday morning was a pretty stormy overnight hours. I imagine there was a lot of dogs that were shivering, and I imagine a lot of us were woken up multiple times by this by the collapse of thunder as the system came through. Just looking in total here, that system over the last weekend brought in 500,000 cloud ground lightning strikes across the United States. So yep, it has been extremely active. By the way, just to kind of show you something really cool here, I've been pretty excited about how well the National Weather Service and the forecasters for the PGA did with the Masters. Here we are in Augusta, right in through here. I grabbed this snapshot, this radar image, the moment Tiger Woods sunk the putt to win the tournament. And my hat's off to these folks for forecasting this, because just after this, all of this came through, this heavy rain. And if we would have gone into extra holes here, if there would have been a tie, that would have been delayed. And it would have been a much different outcome, I think, for the whole Masters tournament. So maybe Tiger should be thanking the weather, get him out playing in the morning here, because lightning and a lot of heavy rain came in behind this. Put it all together, this is what just the last 72 hours brought us in terms of total accumulated precipitation. Before I tell you about North Carolina, look down here. Parts of the southern plains, which grow a lot of the same crops we grow in the Carolinas, just added in some locations between 3 and 6 inches of rainfall as these storms came through. In the Carolinas, we did pick up. You can see here some locations picked up well over 2 inches of rain. Right around Raleigh picked up 2 inches over the last 3 days. And this is adding to the moisture we've already got in place. So that map on the right shows you the last 14 days in terms of percent of normal precipitation. And what do we see? We see much of the mid-south. We see much of the lower Mississippi River Valley, even getting over into Texas. I'm really pointing out here the Cotton Belt. And then getting over here to the Carolinas, we've had double our normal rainfall for this time of year. And what's important to look at now is where we're sitting in terms of soil moisture anomalies. Now this map over here is in millimeters, but roughly 100 millimeters is about 4 inches. So where we have that snow, we've also got 4 inches of additional moisture already in the soil. And here across parts of North Carolina, we're sitting at about an inch of excess, almost 2.5 to 3 inches of excess water that's sitting in the soil. Now things have been dry south of there, where I just kind of drew this circle, but over the last couple of weeks, we have eroded away that drought picture that has kind of perked up there in parts of South Carolina, get back into Georgia, and we're really making some strides toward eliminating that. We're certainly going to continue that fight here as we progress through the next week. Now, I want you just to look at this map and see what I see, okay? Whenever we see our global, lower resolution, but global models like the European picking up on these stripes of precipitation. See them? And yep, they come all the way over to the Carolinas. When we start to see that, that is a telltale sign that the atmosphere is going to be producing a lot of localized heavy flooding due to severe weather. And that is going to be our problem as we press forward. You can see as I zoom in here to the Carolinas that by next week, we may pick up in some locations where these thunderstorms train or follow one another an additional 1 to 2 inches. Some folks may not get much rain out of this at all because it's going to be discrete thunderstorm cells or squall lines that pass through. Now, before we get to this severe weather toward the end of this week is going to be warming with time, and it's going to be very, very nice. It's going to be the end of your week and weekend that are going to be quite different from the beginning. And here's where it all gets going. This is the Storm Prediction Center's outlook on Wednesday, and all you can do is just take this on Wednesday, move it here on Thursday, and there on Friday. It is just going to be a nasty week in terms of severe weather. This pattern is rocking. Now, why is it doing this? Well, let's take a look at our trough ridge pattern right now. And starting off early Monday morning, this was the trough that brought through that big system that brought the thunderstorms to us at the end of the weekend. Well, this system exits quickly, but watch Northern California. There's the next player right there. Now, as that trough sweeps into Northern California, look at what we get in the Carolinas. Yeah, a ridge. This is the continual warm-up all week that we're going to get to experience as we're just waiting on this trough to come out of Texas, out of the lower and mid-Mississippi River Valley, such that by Thursday into Friday, we are watching for the severe weather threat as this trough sweeps through the Carolinas. Problem is that trough hangs around into Easter weekend, and we could start off, Easter weekend cool and continue it cool as Sunday progresses here. Major change, though, and it happens here. Over Alaska, we're starting to see a trough develop. See that? Such that by the time I get you out into next week, that trough is sitting right here with the ridge to the south, and we're going to fire the jet stream across the country. What does all that mean? Well, that means our troughs are not nearly as deep as the ones we've been seeing. Yeah, there's still one that's sneaking through the flow here by the time I get you out into next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and that's going to again cause, some more showers and thunderstorms and possibly some severe weather for the region I just circled. But the difference is we're not bringing in these big sweeping troughs that bring in incredibly heavy rain for a huge region. So after we get past this week, the pattern stays active, but because the trough develops in the Gulf of Alaska, that changes our temperature patterns and that changes the type of severe weather we're going to have. Rather than adding the flood fight to the severe weather problems, we're just really going to be dealing with a lot of local severe weather threat with this pattern. But it's not a cold one either. This is a pattern where things tend to stay warm and very spring-like in terms of temperatures. So watch this. This was last night, early this morning. The front is gone. This animation takes you all the way out to Wednesday morning, and what do we see? We've got a beautiful week shaping up in parts of the Carolinas. That is, until we get to the weekend. First system leaves, high pressure dominates through middle of this week, but that next system blows up in the middle part of the country by Wednesday afternoon and Wednesday evening. It takes aim Wednesday night into Thursday morning in the lower Mississippi River Valley all the way up into the Midwest and Ohio River Valley. We stay under the influence of higher atmospheric pressure through Thursday midday, but we're going to have to start watching for scattered showers and storms on Thursday night, such that by the time early Friday morning gets here, there's where the storms race across Friday afternoon and evening. Very windy, very stormy end of the week, so enjoy the first few days of this week. Well, that system passes through, cools us down for the weekend, keeps some showers hanging around over the weekend, and then things clear out. High pressure builds back in to start next week, but another system's waiting in the wings there in the middle part of the country Tuesday into Wednesday of next week that will get close to the Carolinas, bringing in more chances of showers and storms. So that is why we see a beautiful week setting up, but a stormy weekend and then an active pattern setting up after that. When we look out beyond this, this is the week 2 forecast, so only looking at week 2 precipitation anomalies. We do see the south central plain staying active, but this ridge that keeps developing here over the southeast may put us back into much more seasonable precipitation types. Now that typically means quite a bit of thunderstorm activity this time of year, but we're not seeing the very, very wet conditions continuing once we get past these next 2 systems. What do temperatures do? Well, take a look at this. We're going to certainly start off the day on Monday into early Tuesday morning. It's going to be slightly cooler than average, but look what happens after we get past Tuesday into the middle part of the week. See, there's the rebound in temperature. See the warmer than average temperatures Wednesday into Thursday and then into Friday. By the time we get into Friday, remember, that's our stormy time of the week, and then the cooler air comes in as we settle into Easter weekend. But don't fret, that gets out pretty quickly. We go back into our warming regime as that southeastern ridge returns, and we get overall, as we progress into week 2, we're going to carry a slight warm bias for much of the Carolinas. So it's a tumultuous week this week with a big upswing in temperatures followed by a big downturn toward the end of the week, and then we just get into a pattern next week that's a bit flatter, and as a consequence, it's hard to see major deviations from normal seasonal temperatures and precipitation beyond that. Now, what's important about the flow once we get out here around April 23rd, 24th is right here, right here, and right there. Now, we got 3 areas I just highlighted. Over here, east of Russia, south of Alaska, and Greenland. Now, why point out these 3 areas? The establishment of this ridge tends to push a trough into Alaska and the Gulf of Alaska. And that alleviates the flow and allows more often ridging across the lower 48, hence warmer conditions. But we're going to have to watch out for these sneaky little troughs like that little guy right there swinging through the flow, bringing in the threat for severe weather. Greenland, we're going to translate that deeper trough and extend it over to much of Western Europe, taking Western Europe into a more active pattern once we get past this weekend or early next week, and that'll be important for bringing up their precipitation totals. Looking longer term, we see that the atmosphere is wanting to favor overall some sort of trough feature in here with a ridge to the south of it. That tends to split the flow over the west United States, which tends to keep much of the east under a ridge, which means we're going to continue to see a pretty rapid progression of spring-like weather, which does include a lot of thunderstorms, but a lack of major cool downs in the eastern part of the country as we progress toward the end of April and the beginning of May. This pattern, though, by the way, where we tend to feature troughs that keep swinging through the western U.S., kind of drawing a big line here, does keep our severe weather threat alive and going, especially for the Central Plains, but this will extend over to the East Coast with each one of these systems. To wrap this up, I want to give you a bit of a global perspective here. On the top, we're looking at the most recent, so this was valid April 8th. We'll get a brand new one of these coming out later in the day on Monday. But April 8th, 2019 versus the same time period a year ago on the bottom. Now, why I'm showing you this is I want to compare this year to last year, and I want to focus outside of the United States, specifically into South America. We're watching a growing season finish up there. And I'm going to show you the differences. This is the year-on-year change in the Vegetative Health Index, which means when you get over to this side, things are looking healthier. Over here, they're looking not as healthy. We see across the Carolinas, things look better than a year ago, at least from outer space in terms of how green things are. But I want to focus your attention down to South America. We just got some recent updates that the safrinha crop coming out of Brazil is looking fantastic. So it's mostly a corn and cotton crop. And the crop that's finishing down in Argentina looks much better than it did a year ago. Some places of importance, though, come over here to parts of Eastern Europe and Western Russia. Things do not look as good as they did a year ago. A mild and dry end of winter and beginning of spring is causing some problems there. But if you want to, pause the map, take a closer look at some other regions that you're focused on, and help you just kind of get perspective on how this spring is turning out across the world. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.